Joining us now is the CEO, Exitum Consulting Limited, Adeyemi Ajayi. It's nice to have you join us this morning.
Good morning.
Great.
Yeah.
Now, it is no news that the coronavirus has taken a toll on every single thing in the endeavor of the world right now. But as some people will say, let us look forward to gloomy days ahead because the realities are here. Others will say, okay, let us take advantage of this to see how we can look for creative means of stemming the tide. From your standpoint, what days ahead do you look at? When you look at the economic crystal balls, are we in for a great fall as an economy?
Yeah, very, very great fall as an economy. Unfortunately, we're an economy that depends on commodity, petroleum.
Yeah.
And like you rightly said, that's accounted for over 80% of our foreign exchange earnings. And it will surprise you to know that as a country, since we've been having this oil, there's been no plan to get out from this reliance on oil. There have been several investments in agriculture. We can't see anything. It's been politicized, if you allow me to use that word, and that is drawing us back. But we're in for a very terrible moment. I mean, if you look at, we benchmarked our oil, this 2020 budget against $57 per barrel. But now, the oil price is between 26 to 30. Yeah. Now, our production cost for per barrel of oil in Nigeria is about $30 per barrel. So we're producing at loss.
At a loss
at
already?
A loss. Yeah, and we have our crudes on the IC.
Absolutely.
Nobody's taking
buyers.
them. No buyers.
So, well, back here in Nigeria, of course, country by country now, there's been so many measures now to curtail the impact on the people. So last night, we heard about the reduction in the oil pump price and all that. How do you view that, and to what extent will that go in mitigating the effect of these predictions on the people?
Yeah, sincerely, that palliative measure will not have so much significant impact. Why I said so is if you have to reduce that, you have to compare your spending to your earnings. Earnings would drop, definitely for individuals. And if you're also bringing this as palliative measures, the fact is people will also want to cut down on their cost in terms of spending. So earning is not increasing, cost is being reduced, but the rate of earning not increasing is higher than the rate of cutting down cost. So the palliative measure will not really bring significant impact. Now that there is even going to be restrictions and movements and all that, that tells you
economic activities will not...
will just freeze up. So if I'm not, the only thing is maybe people burning fuel for generator in their respective homes. But to get to a point, if I'm not making that money, I'll be careful burning that fuel, So the palliative measures will not really make
CBN, it is announced the CBN is about to inject about 1 trillion naira into the economy to, try to stimulate and stabilize things. Absolutely. What impact will that have?
Yeah, how much is 1 trillion compared to the situation we're in now? Do you understand?
How much will be enough?
Yeah, for me, if you ask me, the deficit will be enough.
Really?
Yeah, because for now we're having deficit of over about 2.75 trillion naira. Now that tells you with the situation we're in now, we should be looking at 5 trillion naira.
Whoa.
Yeah. So if they want to say, okay, let's use the budget as our baseline to stimulate the economy to move and drive the economy, let's look at that 5 trillion. Let's start from there. I'm afraid because our earnings now is going through a very rough time. Okay, so if we don't have it, we're going to rely on our foreign reserve. So our reserve would definitely plummet.
And the reserve has been going down over the past months.
It will continue to go down.
Wow.
Yeah, because our foreign earnings are not coming up as we should have them. So if you don't have it, it's your reserve that you fall back on. And this is a time that I expect government to do something about excess crude accounts. There should be a refocus on it. At a point, our excess crude account was over 50 billion. But as we talk now, it's around $76 million. So what are we talking about?
Wow. Okay. Well, let's. You have the crystal ball, so we certainly will be consulting you with.
But he doesn't have the face. He doesn't have the face for it because giving us those projections, and you're smiling as you say so.
That is why he has the crystal ball. So he's seeing what we're not seeing yet. Thank you very much, Adeyemi Ajayi, for coming on the program.
Thank you.
Thank you. Joining us now is the CEO, Exitium Consulting Limited, Adeyemi Ajayi. It's nice to have you join us right now.
Good morning.
Great. Now, a lot of people have projected that global recession is on the horizon, and Nigeria may be worse hit because it's a country that is not very diversified, leaning only on oil to a great extent, and many countries will certainly fall into recession. What do you see?
Yeah, absolutely. Globally, the outlook, global GDP was estimated, let's look last year, 2019, from 3.3%, it ended with 3.1%. That this year, there was a projection again of another 3.4%. For now, globally with the models, economic models, it's just telling us that we shouldn't be looking at that 3.4 anymore. We should be looking around 2.7%, which means there's a decline in global GDP. Now coming to Nigeria and Sub-Saharan Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa is expected to grow around 7%, but with Nigeria, we are projecting 2.93% based on our budget. But I can tell you for Nigeria, clearly there is recession in the horizon. Maybe Q3, that is when we're going to feel it, because the ripple effect of this coronavirus is going to affect us. But again, let's look back. This fall in oil price is as a result of price war between Russia and Saudi Arabia. And coronavirus has now come to add, to make it worse for us. So for us, we're in a very bad shape.
So to bounce back, what can the country do, or what can the world do? Let's start nationally first before we try and make projections for the world, despite the worries of corona and other factors.
Yeah, okay. If we start looking at some countries, advanced countries, they're already pumping funds into the economy. But for us, where do we have that fund? 1 trillion naira. Nigeria is bigger than 1 trillion naira. 1 trillion naira is about $3 billion or so, or not even up to that. What will that do for us? Okay? To really bounce back, we need to look away from oil. But that will be a long-term thing.
Absolutely.
So in the immediate, we need to now start coming up with measures. First, in the immediate to bounce back, let's cut down our costs. This year's budget, we have spending of 10.95 trillion. We have earnings of 8.42 trillion with a deficit
as well.
Yeah,
2 trillion.
We have deficit of 2.175 trillion to be funded locally with 745 billion naira, and from foreign borrowings we're looking at 850 billion. We also have multilateral and some other loans we're looking at 321 billion naira. Now, from what we see, this funding will be difficult for us, either outside or within. This will be difficult.
All right. Just a few months ago, there was an increase in minimum wage, which certainly puts a burden again on the government originally, and this has compounded the situation. How bad would it be for let's leave the corporations and government now, narrowing it down to the average salary earner? How is it going to affect him?
The way it's going to affect him is that the value of that minimum wage increase is already gone.
Whoa.
Because, I mean, if you give this person money, we're looking at inflation. I'll tell you, inflation will go up. Estimation is
single digit. So he will get the money, but the value will...
It will go. I mean, as at 31st of December, January, the inflation we're having is about 12%. Sure. Now, let me tell you, it will go to 15, 16% in a short time. How would that happen? We are import-dependent countries, and these people that are importing to us, the supply to us will reduce because they've been affected by this coronavirus. Now, when that declines, it just tells you that you're going to have shorter supply, higher demand probably, and in that case, price will go up. And when prices go up, inflation sets in. So the minimum wage that we're talking about is already been punctured everywhere.
Wow. Okay. Well, looking at the numbers and statistics and the projections, somehow it seems like it's a very bleak situation. But we look forward to with some level of optimism.
Absolutely.
Adeyemi Ajayi, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Joining us now is the CEO, Exitium Consulting Limited, Adeyemi Ajayi. Good morning, and thank you for staying with us on the program. Well, the Minister of Finance and her team have moved on, or are moving on. Now they slashed the budget by about 1 trillion or so. And then still in the steps now to curtail the spread of coronavirus. We've also seen the country, stopping entries from at least 13 countries. But economists have also, debated on that. Perhaps that may have been the reason why the government didn't make the decision on time to do this. What are you looking at? Looking at the losses of the country in this regard versus, the necessity that this situation demands.
Okay. If you're looking at the losses, first, if they're cutting the expenditure by 1 trillion, now by how much is the revenue going down? If it was pegged at $57 per barrel, and we're having $30 per barrel, about 43% drop in expected revenue has gone down. And if we're looking at 43% of 8.42 trillion, that is telling us we're in the range of like 5.5 trillion. So we're shedding about 3 trillion in terms of revenue, and we're cutting down 1 trillion. I mean, it just tells that we should cut down more in terms of expenditure.
Actually, 1.5 doesn't matter. 1.5 trillion is still the same.
It's still the same. We're still within the same corridor. Now, again, if we push forward in terms of necessity for action, let us look at the budget breakdown now. We're going to be paying 23.2% of our expenditure to service debt. Now, we have our recurrent expenditure, which is going to be 4.84 trillion. Is that where we're cutting down, or in terms of capital expenditure, which is 2.78 trillion?
All right.
Now,
because of time, let's just the Ghanaian president Nana Akufo-Addo who is also witnessing the same thing Nigeria is witnessing, is advising his country to take this opportunity to self-produce as a way of trying to be reliant. Nigeria has even more capacity than Ghana when it comes to that. How much of that can change or can be a game changer?
It's a fantastic game changer. If we've been self-producing, this is a time where the margin would have been wider. What I mean by that is the price has fallen in the global market. So which means you're getting the crude cheaper. You're selling better. The margin is wide for the government. So the government can get money now. Comparing with Ghana, we have more potentials. We look at other real sectors apart from oil that can generate for us industrialization. Unfortunately, foreign direct investment has not been growing significantly for us. Even the foreign portfolio investors, they just come in and out because of the uncertainties in our environment. So,
volatility.
Yeah, it's just pushing us to a very close, tight position. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Let's leave it here now. Adeyemi Ajayi, thank you so much for coming on the